Everything we do here at James Project focuses on caring for vulnerable women and children because we believe that's the call that God has placed on every one of us as Christians.
We are back with another James Project podcast, and today we're talking to Claudia Bell from Ohio. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Kathy. Nice talking to you.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm doing
Good.
great. The
All
weather's
right.
getting warmer. The snow has stopped, and so
Yeah.
it's good. All is good. Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about yourself? Where are you from?
Um,
Your family?
okay. So yeah, my name is Claudia Bell. I'm a wife. I'm a mother, grandmother, a teacher. My husband's a pastor, so I'm a pastor's wife too. I love traveling. I grew up in Germany, and my dad took us on lots of trips, so I've always enjoyed traveling. And I also like horses a lot, and I like dogs, and I like the outdoors.
Nice. Nice. How many kids do you have?
I have 4.
4 kids.
Yeah, they're all adults now. The youngest is 22, and the oldest is 28.
Wow. Have you lived in Ohio since you moved to the States?
First, when I came to the States, I lived in Connecticut, and I spent about 3 years of my life there. I worked as a nanny. Then I also lived in New Hampshire for 2.5, 3 years. And that's where I actually met my husband. He was going to seminary in Massachusetts, and he came to a church that I attended in New Hampshire. And well, then when we decided to get married, we moved to Pennsylvania, where he's from Pennsylvania. And he finished his studies, his seminary studies, and then he did an internship at a church that he attended when he went to Grove City College. And
Neat.
so we lived in Pennsylvania for 4 years, and then he got a call in upstate New York, north of Albany, near Lake George, and we lived there for almost 11 years. And then he got a call down here in Ohio, and we've been here for 15 years now.
Wow. That's exciting. Lots of different places.
Yes.
So you said you met your husband when he was in seminary.
Great.
So have you always been a Christian?
No. I thought I was a Christian. I was born and raised in Germany, and I always thought I was a Christian. I went to my parents didn't go to church. My father was Catholic, but he left the Catholic Church. My mother was Protestant, but she didn't really go to church with me. But I enjoyed going to church when I was a kid, but I never really heard about sin and who Jesus was, our savior from sin. And so I didn't know all that. And then I had I had been back and forth to the United States, and ended up making some pretty bad decisions. And I met a lady whose husband is a pastor, or was a pastor at the time. And but they led me to the Lord. So I was 29 when I became a Christian.
Oh,
And then I met my husband a few months after that.
that's perfect timing. That's great.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for that. That I didn't remain a non-Christian. I'm very thankful for that today.
It seems so crazy that there could be a church that doesn't teach about sin and Jesus.
Well, in Germany, there are plenty of those churches. Yeah,
Wow.
unfortunately, it's a very secular culture, and most churches are either just full of old people, or it's more of a social gospel. There are a few Bible believing churches, and I've seen a couple, but they're very few and far in between.
Oh, that's too
It's
bad.
very sad. Yeah, it's very sad. But all of Europe is like that, pretty much.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very sad. So it's a place we definitely need missionaries at, and a place we need to pray for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So you met your husband because he went to the church that you.
Right. He attended seminary that was about an hour away from the church, but one of his professors was the pastor. And so he and some of his friends came up there on Sundays.
Nice.
And they attended there. And then, yep, we went from there.
And that church was where the couple that led you to the Lord went?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
The couple that led me to the Lord, he was the pastor at that church.
Hmm.
And I ended up living with a family that was also a Christian family. And I tried out a couple other churches at first, but I ended up going to the one where the husband led me to the Lord after all. I didn't want to just go there because he was the one leading me to the Lord. So I thought, oh, I'm going to go with this other family. But I ended up at that church. I stayed with that denomination ever since.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
great.
it was a good fit for me. Yeah.
Good. Good. All right. So what do you do for work?
I am a teacher.
Hmm.
I have a paralegal degree, and I
Wow.
did the same thing in Germany too. I have basically two paralegal degrees, one from an apprenticeship in Germany. In Germany, that would be an apprenticeship, and then I also went to college here for 2 years to get a 2-year paralegal degree. And
Hmm.
first, when we got married, I worked for a law firm. But then when we had kids, which they came fairly fast after that,
Mhm.
I wanted to homeschool them, and so I homeschooled my kids for 9 years. And when we moved to Ohio, we had done Christian education,
Mhm.
and we had a couple of co-ops that we attended, and I couldn't find that same sort of support system down here at the time. I know there are classical Christian homeschoolers now, but I didn't find anybody at the time. So we ended up, one of my husband's best friends also attends this church here, and he had recommended Heartland Christian School for us to check out. And Dallas Lehman was the administrator. So we had an interview with him,
Mhm.
and we didn't even look around any other schools. And so we signed up our kids, and our oldest was at that point going into ninth grade, and then the next one, seventh and fifth, and the youngest into third grade. So, and
Wow.
that's how I met Dallas Lehman.
Mhm.
And
And were
then,
your kids happy to go to school?
yeah, they did all right. I mean, for me, that was kind of a test. How would they do? How did I do? Did I prepare them enough? And they all did fine. And the last one is getting her college degree now. So they all did fine. So I guess I did all right.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I still wanted to be part of my kids' lives, and I enjoyed homeschooling a lot, but they couldn't just hire me as a teacher because I only had that 2-year paralegal degree. So at first, I worked in the autism program in our school
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
helped there as an aide, and then did that for a number of years. At the same time, I went back to college and ended up getting a bachelor's degree. It ended up not being in teaching because the teaching classes were all being offered during the time when I was working.
Work.
So I kind of built my own, and I took some teaching classes.
Mhm.
And I took some English classes. So I have it's called general studies degree, but I
Mhm.
had my emphasis on English and history, and I also got an English minor. So
Mhm.
after I had my bachelor's, they could finally hire me as a teacher, and they hired me as a German teacher.
Oh, that's
So
great.
I'm teaching German, and I'm also teaching a Bible class.
Nice. That's fun. What grades do you teach?
Mostly high school,
Mhm.
but also some middle schoolers because we are offering our middle schoolers 9 weeks of a language, and we're
Mhm.
doing half German, half Spanish.
Oh, great.
So they get a taste of both, and then once they get to be in ninth grade, they can decide which one they like better.
That's nice. Gives them a nice introduction. Get
Yeah.
the
So
yeah.
yeah, and some of them just like one language better than the other.
Mhm.
Most kids sign up for Spanish, which is fine because it lends itself being
Right.
having so many Spanish speaking people here. But some people like German, so
Mhm.
I always end up with a nice sized class.
That's great. So does the school is it what grades are at the school, the Heartland Christian School?
Everything from preschool to 12th grade,
Wow. So
and
how
it's
many
grown.
students?
Yeah, it's grown tremendously. I think we have like a couple of years ago we had about 350, and we have like 550 students now. It's really grown, especially during and after COVID.
Mm,
And
that's
then what's going on in a lot of schools now, people don't want to have their kids exposed to that. So they choose the Christian education instead.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's going well. So yes, you mentioned Dallas. We like
Yeah.
Dallas.
So that's the funny thing. Yeah, Dallas started taking teams from the school. Well, we have this program. It's called a mini term, where you have
Mhm.
a week outside the classroom,
Mhm.
and the students get to do a service project. They get to learn something new. They get, it's like an all round. experience outside the classroom for about four to 5 days. And Dallas started taking a group of students, high school students, that do these out, far away mini
Right.
terms. And I think he first took a group to Mexico. And then I don't know how he stumbled across the James Project, but then he started taking students to the James Project, I think in 2010, I think. We came in 2009, so we weren't involved in that yet. But then 2012, he formed a new team and he made me his helper. So he and I planned everything he planned most of it, but I helped him, get this first trip for me, the first trip going. And we met with the students every week, and even to the point where they wrote their own scripts for a VBS in town. We had like a 3-day VBS, and we had puppets, and they wrote everything first in English, then in Spanish. And so it took a lot of time to prepare these trips at first. And so that was my first exposure to the James Project. And two of my two oldest kids went with me. And they enjoyed it very much too. And it was just neat. I had been to India when I was younger. So, I had already seen the third world or a developing country. I don't really call Guatemala a third world country so much anymore. I call it a developing country because I see so much progress every time. So, it wasn't totally strange to me, but obviously it was different from India again. And we had, what did we do? We poured cement and did some things like that. So it was pretty neat. And then 2 years later, he was planning, at that point, he was taking teams every other year. And 2 years later, I wanted to go again, but then I felt kind of selfish. So my husband went instead with two of my kids. And so I skipped that year. But then 2 years after that, I went with Dallas again. And then he knew at that point he was going to retire at some point. And then in 2018, he put me in charge, and then he was my helper. So he kind of trained me to take over at some point. So that was really neat because it was easier to have somebody transition you into it than trying to figure it all out on your own, because there's so many little details you have to think of, and the whole budget and all that. And so of course he helped me, but he put me in charge at that point. So that was 2018, and we had we had like 24 people. 2016 we had a full crew, and I think 2018 we might have had quite as many again. So as many beds as there are. And the first time we went, there wasn't even a team house yet. They had rented a house in town that we used, and then they had to pick us up every time. And then we were in what's one of the boys' homes now. That was a team house for a while. So we went to that. And then eventually the team house was built, and then we've been there ever since. And so that 2018 I went, and then 2020 I planned the whole thing. I had a whole team paid up and everything. I had to cancel last minute because of COVID. So that was really sad, because there were some people that never got to go. Yeah, that was really sad. And so for 2022, we planned again, but I think everybody was so fearful they didn't know. So I put a team together. We had 6 students and 4 adults with me. And about 5 weeks or so before we were supposed to go, I was going to call it off because there was no way. None of us wanted to get the COVID shot, and it was too many restrictions. So I was going to call it off. And I remember we're sitting at Grove City College at a Keith and Kristen Getty concert. I don't know if you know them. They're Irish, and they write like modern day hymns.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, they're really great. But we were sitting at this concert, and I was texting with Tiffany, something, I don't know, but then she said they just lifted the restriction.
Wow.
So that was like 2 days before I was going to call it off.
Oh my goodness. Perfect timing.
So it's like, okay, let's go. We had not prepared that much, like in way of like doing a mini VBS for the kids or anything. But the kids on my team, they pulled it off, and they pulled it together, and we had a great time. And we did our ministry, and we had our fun time with the kids. We did our food baskets and whatever, name it, it all worked out. And they pulled off um, a skit with a Bible lesson in
Wow.
like a really short time. I was so proud of them. So
I bet they
it was
were
really
excited.
great.
Yeah, they must have been
Yeah.
really excited to be able to go.
Yeah, they were all excited to go. And then, well, I just went again this year. So it was 2 years after that, 2024. And
Mhm.
3 of the kids that went with me 2 years ago went again,
Oh,
which I
nice.
found very helpful too, because then they could help, because I had a full team of 24 people. It was very helpful to have them with me, because they could explain to the other students some things that, might have been where I wasn't always present or something. So, and even in the preparations, we're not as able to meet every week anymore as we used to, because the school has gotten more programs and stuff, and more
Mhm.
people, more programs. But we still had enough time to get everything organized and planned, and so it went well. And they worked on. We did a VBS again, and they did Bible lessons, and we did a craft, and played with the kids and stuff. So it was
Yeah.
great. So it was a wonderful trip. And in the past, I always asked them to ask the students to keep a journal, but then I didn't really want them to be afraid to write what they've thought so much,
Right.
because I knew I was going to read it. So I said, okay, let's just do the journals, but then write a reflection paper afterwards. So,
Mhm.
and then I finally got these reflection papers back on Friday, and some of them really made me cry. But it's like they were all. There was not one person that wasn't touched by the trip,
Mm.
and even the ones that had gone before, they went to a different level again and stuff. So
Aw,
it was really neat.
great. So you've been on how many trips total then to the
This was
James?
my sixth.
That was your sixth. Okay.
Yeah.
So how many people do you think that have gone down with you in 6 trips? Like, do you know how many new people you like collectively you may have brought down?
Oh, every time. I mean, like I said, there were 3 that had gone before this time, so the
Mhm.
rest of them were all new. So there were 20 new
So,
people,
right, yeah,
including
20.
parents. And I
Mhm.
was so excited because our new school, well, we don't have an administrator like that anymore. We have a school president now, because the school has grown and they changed the setup a little bit. He and his
Mhm.
son were on the trip too, and they were just as excited. So the neat thing is, because we have so many more students now, and we want to give every student that opportunity. I sent out an email yesterday to the upcoming sophomores, juniors, and seniors to see if anybody was interested in going next year instead of in 2 years. Well, I had
Mhm.
19 yeses already
Oh my
since
goodness.
then.
That's wonderful.
So, I mean, the excitement of the students that have gone rubs off on the ones, then we do a little video when we come back and stuff. And they just all said, it's a life changing experience. And I can read you some of that in a minute, what some of the
Yeah.
students wrote, but yeah, everybody should have experienced it. I mean, obviously, not everybody feels comfortable doing it, and some
Right.
parents don't feel comfortable. But I always say to them, if anybody has worries about it, they take such good care of us down there. I mean, they pick us up right there at the airport. They
Yeah.
don't take us in any areas that are dangerous. The project is safe.
Mhm.
There's the big wall, and I've never ever felt unsafe ever. We had 2 groups going, one to New York City and one to Washington D.C. this year. And I said, I feel safer going to Guatemala than for those trips. I mean, of course, they took care of the kids very well too, the people that went on those. But, I'm just saying, there's really
Mhm.
nothing to fear, and I think it would be a great thing for another Christian school to do, or a youth group or something. Take a group down there, because what I said to my students too is, like, most teams that go, a lot of them are adults. Sometimes there's some teenagers too, but it's a lot of adults and stuff. So I said our group is special because there's so many young people here. There are 19 young people, and the kids there love it when they can play with them and run with them and play basketball, and a lot more energetic than some of us can do.
Right.
So and our kids, we did water games and this and that. So I think it's neat if the kids down there get a group of teenagers once in a while. And I know sometimes they have people from the city coming in and doing stuff too, right? Sometimes they have like
Yep.
mission trips, mission teams from the city coming
Right. Yeah.
to the
Which I think,
project and doing stuff with the kids too. But
yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
think that's very interesting. Yeah.
I've never felt unsafe there, and the kids didn't either. And I mean,
Mhm.
they don't ever put us in any strange situations or
Right.
anything.
No,
So
no. But like you had mentioned, there's a lot of details. It's hard to meet every
yeah.
week. It is. It's a lot of moving parts to organizing a trip like this. And when you have 19 kids, the onus of all that organization falls mainly on you, right? And
Right. I
it's
mean, right. I mean, because it's better if one person is in charge of that,
Mhm.
and then to keep track of all the little details. I mean, the biggest thing at first, the biggest hurdle was already getting a passport in time.
Mm,
You
I
know,
know.
some of them, one girl, I felt so badly. They got her
Mm.
name wrong,
Oh
so
no.
she had to get a new passport.
Yeah.
And
Did she
it
get
was
it?
already November, December, or whatever. Thank God, it was all God's doing. All passports came in time,
Oh,
and
good.
Dallas kindly had given me the name of a lady who organized teams. So
Hmm.
instead of trying to book the cheapest trip on Expedia that I can get through 3 different bookings for 24 people or 4 different bookings, because I only do 6 people at a time. So I just
Hmm.
went through this lady, and it was all worth it because she got us all 24 on the same flight. And it was difficult right before Easter as well because there weren't that many flights available. I wanted to make sure the kids got home before Easter.
Hmm.
And so we actually, instead of from a Friday through Saturday, we went from a Wednesday, and then we left Guatemala on the Thursday.
Okay.
So we took that. I had to take the kids out of the school for 3 days before the mini
Sure.
term week. No, but it was hard to book the flight. So if I
Mm,
plan the next one, I'm gonna get people to apply for their passports a little bit sooner, so we have a little bit more flexibility, getting a better price maybe for the flight. You know.
yeah. Yeah. It's challenging
Mhm.
to get all those ducks in a row. I hear
Right.
you. So lots of people in this day and age would be like, that's too much work. Not doing it.
Oh, no. Well, it is well worth it to me. I'm
Yeah,
already
that's
excited for
what
the
it-
next one. I don't that is worth every minute I spend. Well, and
Mm,
that's the beautiful thing about going over and over again. You build
mhm,
those relationships down there, which I think are so important. I mean, I've supported several kids, and I'm still in touch with 5, and one has a baby now, like 6. I still have 6 people that I need to see every time, some one way or
right.
another. 2 are in the transition home in the city. So I got
Mhm.
to see them when we were in the hostel the last night.
Oh,
I
nice.
organized them a ride so they would be safe, and they came to the hostel for a couple hours. So no, I like to have those relationships. I want to see what becomes of them. I want to see how they grow, and I get excited when I see, oh, this girl is going to university now, or this girl is working, or. So it's just so neat to see. And so the ones that are still at the project, I say, what do you want to do? Do you already know what you want to do? And a couple of the girls that I still support at the project, they said they'd like to learn English too. I said that's great because I think they see with the Guatemalans that now work with the teams,
Mhm.
that can be an advantage, knowing English as well, getting a job. So I think that's neat that they're seeing that already and then working toward that direction. And so I
Mhm.
think that building those relationships is important. Well, then I supported a house parent's daughter for a while. I got to see her again too.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's certain rules, and you have to ask permission and this and that, but it's great, and unless there's an issue, nobody has a problem with it. So that was exciting. I got to see her again, and then I talked
Good.
to her parents that are still house parents there, and it's just so neat because you feel like when you see them again, they're like old friends, and you can kind of pick up where you left off, or in between, we can communicate sometimes through Facebook or
Right.
WhatsApp or whatever. So it's really neat. I just get excited because of those relationships and how people are growing and progressing and the work that God is doing.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that the return on investment for you for all the work that it entails, because I'm sure if you added up the hours,
No, I don't.
it's
I don't
so much.
keep track of the hours. It's kind of like you just kind of do it. You just have to remember to do everything you need to do. But other than
Right.
that, it's like, some of it I do at school, some of it I do from home. It kind of just flows into each other, but it's all worth it. I mean, and then people are worried about the cost too. So many people can't go on these trips, so they'll be glad to support somebody else. So it never hurts to ask. I give the students a letter that they can send or they can change, like a fundraising letter. And usually we end up with more money coming in for the whole team than we need.
Right.
So, which is nice. Then I can leave a nice donation or so
Mhm.
it's fun. No, I enjoy it. And the more I do it, the more I know what I'm doing. And then it's more
Right.
enjoyable. Does that make sense?
Yes. I saw you hesitate there, like, because most of the time you say the more you do it, the easier it gets. It really doesn't get easier,
No, it
right?
doesn't. Because you still have to remember all this detail. And I'm not the best at detail things, but
Mm,
as long as I get the flight is always the biggest. I mean, that
yeah.
stresses me very much because I have to get all the names right. If I mess
Mhm.
up the names, they're not going to let those people on the flight.
I
It's the
know.
biggest stress factor.
Yeah.
So
It
once I
is.
get that right, and then, once we get to the airport and they accept everybody's passport, I'm like, thank you, Lord.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
know. I know.
So,
So
and then, yeah, so the passports are a big thing. What was the other thing? Oh, all that paperwork that we have to do. All the
yeah.
paperwork that needs to be sent in and stuff. It's a long process. So you have to start soon enough so that you get it all back in time. And one
Mhm.
time I sent it to the wrong place, so that I sent it to the bank by accident. I didn't realize. It all worked out in the end. No, it's all worth it. It's definitely worth putting all that work in because I also get joy out of sharing
Mhm.
the project, my
Right.
project. I get joy sharing that with other people and then seeing them get excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty remarkable place.
Yeah, it
Speaking
is.
of
It is right. It is. I mean, we in the one week we're there, we don't see all the hard work that the house parents have to put in, that the teachers have to put in and stuff. But since we're a school, we also have a connection with the teachers. So we spent some time trying to encourage the teachers this time when we were there. And we brought them a gift just for them, or, yeah, with the house parents, when the kids all play. That's a nice thing. If you have a bunch of teenagers, you as an older person can go and talk to the house parents. You don't have to play with the kids. So you can find out a little bit more about their lives and stuff, and then what you can pray for them. And so when I came back from this trip, I especially said to people, don't just pray for the kids, but pray for the teachers and pray for the house parents. And
yeah. Yeah.
so, but I mean, it's an amazing organization. I give so much credit to everybody who's involved down there. I mean, everybody's needed and everybody does a great job. And it's just, you can definitely can see God's hand in it.
Oh,
It's just a wonderful organization that the goal is that, hopefully kids' hearts are changed while they're there. And then hopefully they can go back out into the world and change their little area of life, the area where they live at some point, their own, if they go back to their families, that hopefully they have a positive impact on them so
right.
that more of Guatemala will change for the better for Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. And we already see a lot of that in the community down there.
Absolutely.
The community is really taken to what the project is doing, and they'll give back donations, like
Right.
tithes from their crops and things. They just got one recently,
Right,
corn.
the corn, right? The corn, yeah,
Yeah.
that was wonderful. Or, that they're trying to get the churches more involved down there and stuff. That's wonderful. So when we were there last year, my husband talked to some of the pastors from there. So we had a little conference for them,
Mhm.
to encourage them to get more involved. And I mean, I just see the progress from when I first went in 2012.
Mhm.
Just, yeah, the whole impact on the community definitely has grown. And
Yeah.
something really neat happened. We did 4 baskets this time. Usually we always did 3. I thought, well, we're 24 people. Let's do 4 baskets. And then we went to one lady's house and she said, I think I remember you from some other time. And
Oh,
that was so neat. I mean, sadly, I
that
didn't remember her, but she must have remembered me from being down there before. And I thought that was so sweet, you know.
yeah, yeah. And
Unfortunately, with for us being there just handing out those baskets, we don't really get to make much of a relationship with those people that we pray with
right,
and bring the baskets to. But I know that the people from the project do, and that's wonderful. They check up on them and they see how they're doing, and that's
yeah.
really sweet. That's really awesome. Yeah.
And I love that we get to participate in
Right.
their ministry when we go down. Like you said, your husband did a pastor's conference
Mhm.
and you got to help and encourage the teachers and they're so open to let us participate, even
Yeah,
just for
it's
that short little
wonderful.
window of time. I
Right.
know. Yeah.
It's wonderful. And then, my daughter Joanna, I can just talk about her briefly. She was down there. She's going on her 5th trip in June with Kathy.
Oh, yeah. Kathy
Um,
Preston. Yeah.
and so she had gone a couple of times, and then my son's best friend's now wife was teaching at a school in Quetzaltenango in Sheila at a Christian school, and they were looking for teachers. And then Joanna graduated from college, and she ended up going and teaching at that school in Sheila for 2 years.
Wow.
And the the stepping stone for that was her first trips to
Oh,
Monjas,
yeah.
so that took away some of the unknown about
Hmm.
Guatemala. So she loved living in Guatemala. She's back now, and she's my colleague now. She
Oh,
teaches
that's
high
so
school
neat.
math, yeah, at our school, and so that's pretty neat. But her heart is still down there all the time. So she's going to go back down in June with Kathy, and then she has a wedding to go to in Sheila.
Oh,
Um,
that's wonderful.
so, and we're already talking about doing another trip through our church next summer together.
Oh, great. So you would
Yeah,
maybe get to go down twice next year.
I know. I feel
That
kind
would
of
be
guilty,
great.
but
No, don't
I'm
feel
really
guilty.
excited about it. Yeah.
Mhm,
Um, but I think maybe I feel guilty because I just enjoy it so much,
mhm,
But on the other hand, I know that anybody who goes with me, they always enjoy it too. So, yeah, our
yeah,
church agreed last year that we can organize a trip through the church every other year.
okay.
So, yeah, we went last July,
Mhm,
and so that was nice too.
yeah,
And even though not everybody was from our church, so I mean, other people can go too, but it's just nice. That's a different dynamics because you go with more. Even though two of the students went with us too, so
that's funny.
it was great. It's just great. I mean, I just go with the flow, and
Mhm,
pray that God can use us and what all the students say, and everybody who's gone. You go down there, and we're going to go down and love on them, but everybody comes back and feels like they got much more back than they put into it.
I know, isn't it amazing?
It is, yeah, it is amazing. But on the other hand, I've gotten so many thank yous down there too. I know they appreciate that we come and do stuff too. So
Right, right, absolutely. It's
it
not that
does
we
really
don't.
go both ways.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
just a perception that we have that we're gonna go do this amazing thing and we're
right,
gonna, pour so much into them, and we have no idea what we're about to receive.
right. Oh
And
no, that's what the students wrote in their papers too. It's just yeah. If you want me to, I can just
yeah,
highlight a couple lines. And like I said,
great.
I didn't get through all of them, and I didn't highlight in everyone, but these are just a couple. I mean, here's one student who said that was one of the best decisions she ever made in her life, and
Oh,
she's going to be a senior.
that's
She did
just
not realize the impact this trip would have on her.
mm,
She said the same thing: building connections. They all made connections with the kids, no matter how much Spanish they spoke.
right. Yeah.
So I mean, here's the German teacher taking taking a group to Spanish speaking country. I don't speak much Spanish, but we have the translators. But then also those kids, they're not afraid to just try to communicate, and they go back and forth. And I have a really moving conversation. One girl I highlighted it in her paper, but yeah, and this one says it was difficult to communicate with them due to speaking different languages, but it was never hard to interact with them and love them. Just and she said they taught her more than she could have ever imagined. She loved all the kids' joyful hearts. of course, we didn't see some of the difficulties that sometimes arise, but I mean, the thing is, those kids seem to genuinely enjoy the time with the kids from our school. So, and then they all came to this, like, to remind them what they have and how good they have it, and in a nutshell,
Yeah,
Um,
active.
but here's one that really brought me to tears.
Oh,
I'm not gonna say any names or anything, but so this girl decided to sponsor a child that she didn't know. She just picked somebody. She didn't fully understand what it meant and how special it was until she met the girl down
oh,
there on this trip. And she said they instantly clicked and they had the best conversations that they could with the difference in language. And so one night they were hanging out. I'm gonna put my reading glasses. She asked her how she had found her, why she had picked her.
yeah.
And she just explained to her, well, she just picked her,
Mhm.
I don't know. And then she told her a bit about her story, which was heartbreaking to her.
Mhm.
She told her how she was practically abandoned by her family and how she was often alone. And then she told her that nobody had ever chosen her.
Oh,
So this girl was so moved by
being
my girl from my group
yeah.
choosing her, and they just had the best connection. And then she just goes on, she said, even though there was this language barrier, they seemed to understand each other really well. It's like the Holy Spirit was really just
Mhm.
lifting those language barriers so they could have a good conversation. So
So great.
that was reading that while the students were in the classroom. I thought, here, I'm gonna be a mess reading this paper. But I mean, this is like, yes, this they get it more than I even expected. It's so wonderful. And here's one who's been on her third trip, and she said there's not a day that she doesn't think about the people she met through her trips to Guatemala, and how their joy is completely found in the Lord. She entered this trip thinking she was a pro in going on this mission trip to Guatemala because she's already been 2 times, and she's like, God continued to teach her new things. So, um, and her biggest takeaway on this trip was the theme of total dependence on God in all circumstances. And then she brought up the prayer under the cedar tree and how that moved her, and just the neat thing is, like, over this distance of 2 different countries, 2 different cultures, but you have that connection in Christ, and that is so neat.
It is.
It is
Yeah.
so neat. And we know, I'm sure these students, they have been so moved too, that a lot of them will keep praying for the people they met down there and stuff. And a
Yeah.
lot of them said they want to go back.
Oh, good. And it's such a testimony to the power of prayer because
Absolutely.
everything there has been prayed over and prayed
Right.
for.
Right.
And I mean, they don't venture into anything new without bathing it in prayer
Right.
and making sure that it's where God is leading them. So
And
it's
that's
really,
wonderful. And God is definitely honoring that by the way things are developing. It's like every time I go down there, there's a new building, there's a new this, there's a new that. And it's just wonderful because more needs are being met. And obviously you can't help every single person in Guatemala, but
no,
the difference you can make in some of their lives, and then hopefully they can carry that on to their communities, to their families and stuff, then it's just like, hopefully it snowballs from there.
yeah, that ripple effect, I'm
Yeah.
sure we won't fully understand this side of heaven.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so encouraged by what those kids wrote, and
Oh,
it
I could give you more, but it would take forever. So,
right, right,
but it's those were just 3 that I started reading, and like I said, I didn't get through the rest of them because I ran out of time.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so one girl said she didn't even know where to begin.
Oh,
Another one, her paper was late because she didn't know how to start. You
oh,
know,
wow.
so
Mhm.
it's like I can see that. I gave them a couple of weeks to process it, but it was um, still, they're still thinking about it, still moving them, and that's good because it would be sad if they just went and there was no impact on anybody's life. So no,
Right.
this is really exciting, and I said to them too. And if you want to reach out to people, there are also different places in our own community where you can get where help is needed.
Yeah. And that's such a powerful thing because a lot of these kids, well, all of us, we kind of live in our own little world. And
Right.
for to see needs around us. So it's so impactful to go and see that's all you're doing is you are
Right.
spending that time being the hands and feet of Jesus and seeing all these needs.
Right.
So it's so hugely impactful because it's so different than our own lives. But then to come back and try to have those same sort of eyes as you're going about your normal life,
Right.
it's harder.
Right. Well, we have a rescue mission in town. We have a pregnancy help center. We have some people that are working with women that got themselves into trouble without intentions,
Right.
like through drugs and then being in the wrong circles and stuff. So, I mean, there are things in the community that we can get involved in.
Mhm.
So, which is good, but it's also, it's good to be able to do both things,
It is. Yeah. But it's good that you remind them that it doesn't have to be just when you go away for a
Right.
week.
Right.
You can do this on a daily basis because I think part of the impact is that feeling of tremendous purpose
Mhm.
because the things that you're doing every day are
Right.
clearly having a large impact on people's
Right.
lives. Like you
Right.
see it tangibly. And so it just fulfills us so much to have that feeling of purpose for a week.
Right. And
So,
and our students, I mean, our school has always been pretty good about service projects and stuff. And every time you do a service project with them, and of course this is a huge service project, the kids come back and say that was their favorite part. They love it because it makes them feel good that they're helping somebody else. And
yeah.
that's wonderful. We did a lot of fun stuff too. We hiked the volcano, and that's like climbing stairs for an hour. And we painted the two boys' houses, and the
Mhm.
kids loved doing that because they picked the colors, but it was like really bright green and orange and whatever. You'll probably see the pictures at some point. So the kids enjoyed that a lot, and we got done early with the painting projects. We had 4 sessions scheduled. 3 hours each, and they got done in 3 sessions. So we ended up going swimming just with the team,
Yeah.
and that was they enjoyed that. They really appreciated that. So when I plan these trips, I try to make a mixture of like hard work,
Mhm.
playtime with the kids, ministering to the kids through like some VBS or something, doing the
Mhm.
food baskets. We went to the nursing home too. We all rode a tuk-tuk.
Mhm.
So we took tuk-tuks, and the one tuk-tuk driver took them to the wrong place. He took the kids instead of to the nursing home, he took them back to the project. Thankfully, they had phones and they could communicate. That was a little scary for a minute, but
Yeah.
other than that, so the kids enjoyed riding the tuk-tuks, and so we went to the market and handed out tracts there to people. The kids liked that too.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, one of the students wrote that he handed one to a man, and the man didn't take it, but he said he was himself a pastor or something. But he said, "You're doing a great thing here," and
Oh.
so we had Spanish tracts that we brought down,
Mhm.
and
That's wonderful.
I don't know if I forgot anything, but I've always tried to make it an interesting, well-rounded
Right.
event so that there's some downtime, some playtime too, but also lot of heart ministry and stuff. So
Yeah. But it is so good for them to see the value of doing something bigger than themselves
right,
because we live in such a me-centric world, with Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. It's supposed to be all about us, but it's really
right,
this kind of empty existence,
yeah.
if you know.
And delivering the food baskets touched the kids too because they saw how some people live. One lady with dirt floor and then sticks holding up her tarp, and
Mm.
a little bit of metal roof walls going around it and stuff. And I mean, it really moved the kids. And they enjoyed being able to pray with them too.
Mhm.
Not just like handing them the food baskets, but the people were open to being prayed for and prayed over, and
Right.
so that was really meaningful to everybody too.
Yeah, that's so great. So 19 kids and 6 adults is what you just took, right?
5 adults, yeah,
5 adults, okay.
yeah.
Tons of work, tons of time, and cramming all those people in a house for a week
It worked out.
that don't normally spend that much time together, but it's so worth it,
It
right?
is so worth it. And the funny thing is, God had his hands in it because I didn't even pay attention if I had boys and girls. And then I thought, at the end, I'm like, I count because the rooms are only 4 and 4 and 8 and 8. I had
Right.
exactly 8 males.
Oh, wow. That's
God
so
worked that. That wasn't me. That was God working that
cool.
out perfectly.
Oh, that's so crazy. Yeah. But so was there any drama with 19 students?
Oh, well, this was probably the most peaceful trip ever. Well, I mean, last one was, but we were only 10 people, so it's a lot easier to have a peaceful time with 10 people than with 24. This
Right.
was probably the most, and they wrote that in their papers too. The team just,
Mm,
that was a God thing too, because they didn't all know each other before and they came from different grade levels and stuff. And no, the team just gelled really well. Everybody worked together really, really well. She had me write down who was going to do dishes when. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to ask who wants to do dishes after this meal. So I did that every time. And there were always 3 or 4 people that said they would do dishes. And
mm.
so it worked
That's
out perfectly.
yeah, that's really
Yeah,
great.
this was a
Is
great team. I mean, I would take all of them anytime again. So I'm
oh,
praying over this next team that I'm putting together that it would also be as great for everybody involved,
right,
for with the team itself, and then of course for everybody down there.
mhm. So, do you ever experience, and I didn't put this down, but
That's okay.
um, do you ever experience any emotional healing in the kids that go from stuff from their own lives? Do you ever see that where,
Um,
something triggers or even just being together in that community and opening up? Do you
Well,
ever
I have one who says he has a hard time showing his emotions so much, but just from reading his paper, I felt like he has plenty of emotions. He just his personality is not like he goes around bubbling out over it, which is fine. That's his personality, so he shouldn't worry about not having emotions because he
right?
definitely did. That was pretty obvious to me. And like the boys are usually a little more quiet,
Mhm.
and a lot of the kids I don't have in class. Some of them, well, a lot of them were my German students, but
Yeah.
then, there was one boy I never had in class, so I don't really know him. So I found out more from his paper, and he loved it. And I guess he and his mom and his sister want to go on the next one. So
Oh,
he's
great.
always been so quiet at the meetings. He never really said much, and he's just seems to be more shy about it. But when I read his paper, I thought, yeah, no, he gets it too. This is great. So
Yeah, that's
I mean, I don't know necessarily personal drama so much in students, but it's just from reading the papers, they were all touched,
mhm.
and it made them all think about their own lives,
Mm,
and how good they have it, and even if they have a bad day, those kids they met down there had much worse days than they ever had on their worst day. So
yeah,
I definitely think that this was spiritually, I don't know how to say this, help them spiritually grow spiritually.
Yep,
So,
wonderful. So,
okay.
um, so what are some of your favorite life-changing experiences and moments that you've had there with your groups?
My favorite life-changing moments. I don't know if I can like pinpoint it like exactly. It's just like the whole thing. It's just I feel like my desire to go and do things for the James Project and to promote it, and
Mhm.
I signed up to be an ambassador, and I feel like I can full-heartedly do that because it's there's being such a good work is being done down there that I'm not afraid to ask people for donations. I'm not afraid, yeah, to want to share it and stuff. So it's just I just feel like you said, you have purpose. There's purpose being part of it, and it makes me happy to be part of it in whatever way I can.
Mm,
And yeah, the relationships and just it's so hard to put into words. I think the whole experience is hard to put into words if you haven't experienced it yourself. The
right.
kids even in their papers is like, I didn't know really what to expect or whatever, and then it kind of blew any expectation they had. It's just
Mhm.
um seeing how so much joy and beauty can come out of ashes,
Yeah,
and how the Lord is really doing a mighty work down there, and you see it whoever you talk to, and obviously not all the kids are saved yet, but from what I understand, there were a whole bunch of kids just recently that made a profession of Christ. So
Yes,
that's
they
really
did.
awesome, and we would pray that for every kid. And
Mhm.
so for me, it's just what's life changing. It's just the relationship that I built with the people down there. They feel like family to me anymore. Whether it's the one girl who has the baby now, who's come back. She left when she was 18, and then she is now under the wings again,
Aw.
which makes me really happy. And she's growing, and
Mhm.
so that's another thing that Tiffany said too. I mean, they're there. If somebody leaves when they're 18, they can leave, and then they make some bad decisions. But if they fall, they can come back and they can get the help
Yeah.
again. I think that's wonderful, because that's what a family would do for you too. If you don't
Yeah.
have a family, where are you going to go? So this really is a family.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm. And we get to
So
be part of it when we go. Well, and even when we're back here, but, Mama Carol says, "Once you go, you're part of the family forever."
yeah, and I really feel that. So I feel like that's almost. I didn't have much of a. I didn't grow up in a Christian home, so I didn't have that nice fuzzy Christian family feeling that
Mhm.
maybe some kids that grow up with, and they take it for granted because, I mean, no family is perfect, but hopefully if you have a Christian family, it's a little bit more perfect than the non-Christian family. So, and I know they have their struggles down there too, but overall it feels like family. And I
Mhm.
think everybody who's been there long enough, they appreciate it being family too. The
Mhm.
kids, the one girl I still support her because she's gone to university. So, but she goes back as often as she can to see her siblings.
Yeah.
The other one goes back to visit too. Like you say, a family. It is a family.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. And it sounds like from your trips down with children, with teenagers, the life-changing thing might just be the gradual perspective shift that they have in the time that they're there. It sounds like they go down one way and come back completely
Oh
different.
yeah, I mean, I'm so glad I'm going to do this again next time. Instead of, I tell them I want you to journal, but I don't want them to feel restrained by thinking, oh, my teacher is going to read my journal. So
Mhm.
I don't look at their journals, but I want to have some feedback. So I just said, write me a 2 to 3 page reflection paper.
Mhm.
And some of them could have gone on for 10 pages, which would have been fine, but I didn't want them to feel like they had to,
Mhm. Right.
um, I just wanted some of the highlights and stuff, and I
Mhm.
just pray that they will always cherish that, and it's not going to just go away. I think that from what I read, they all were truly touched, and
Yeah. Yeah. So what is it about the project, do you think, that makes it such a unique place?
I would say that the presence of God you can definitely feel there, and I'm very happy that Mama Carol can still be. My dog is being a pest now. Stop. um, um, that Mama Carol is still there and can be part of that. That's so wonderful that she still comes out and explains how everything came about. I
Yeah.
find that is more powerful than reading it in a book somewhere when she can just come and tell how it all came about. I think that's so wonderful. I'm happy for her to be there, and I'm happy to see her when I'm there, and I'm happy
Right.
to have the people that come with me hear her story. So
There
I'm
is something unique about being able to hear the beginnings of
right,
something,
right,
because if you don't understand where it came from, it's hard
right.
to really appreciate, you know,
Exactly.
you just kind of have that mindset, "It's always been here, I'm just gonna go down," but to hear how it started is pretty, remarkable
Right.
as well.
Yeah, and then see what has become of it and how
Mhm.
and it still doesn't look like a um how do I say? It's still small enough that it's still personal.
Yep.
And I know that other property was still donated not far from Shayla where Joanna was,
Mhm.
and it'll be neat when that gets going someday and is something similar. But it's good if it can be contained in a way that it never gets so big that you don't have that family feeling anymore.
Yeah, I think with the model that they've designed and that God gave them from the very beginning, I think
Yeah.
it will always feel like family, just the
No, it's
nature of.
wonderful. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
because the
And I
kids live in little families.
one other thing I was also thinking when I went back again, how many of the house parents have been there for a long time? And that
Mhm.
is a gift. I mean, that is
Yeah.
wonderful for the kids that are staying with them because there's that stability,
Yeah.
um, which again, you find in a real family, but I mean, if you had a turnover in house parents all the time, that would cause a lot of difficulties for the kids that have already gone through so many difficulties too. So I really feel like very strongly that we need to pray for the house parents, that they have strength and encouragement and that
Yeah,
they
it's a
can
hard job.
continue the good work that they're doing,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very hard job, but it
Yeah,
speaks to their belief in what's
right,
happening there for them to be willing to stay
right.
year after year. And several times I'll ask house parents, how many kids do you think you've helped raise? Because
Mhm.
it's, there are hundreds of kids that have been through there.
Right.
And you y- just the, I'll often ask them how hard it is. Like, how do you deal with the loss? Like when they go home, some of
Right.
them, they're there for a little while, some are there for
Right.
longer. And it can be devastating when they get sent home. And
The
to,
longer they are, the harder it would be to
yeah,
let them go. Yeah.
right. And that disappointment and that loss over and over and over again when you have kids coming and going has got to take a toll on your heart.
Right.
So
And then still being able to put that same love and care into the next one that comes. I
yeah,
mean, I watched some of that, some little baby that had just come and the house parent, how loving and wonderful and how that little girl clung to him and stuff. It was wonderful. And I don't want to single anybody out. That's why I'm not saying any names. I'm just,
right. They're
reporting
all
little
fantastic.
different things
Yeah.
that I've observed, and it's so wonderful. And that's why it's nice they have this aftercare program now. I don't remember what it's called. That's wonderful, so that somebody can go and check up on them, make sure the kids are okay. That's I don't know if they can do it in every situation, but as long as they can do it in some,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah, it's the situations, from my understanding, that are a little more, a little less sure of
Right,
the safety and the follow through. So it's the Barnabas Care Program,
right, right, right.
Barnabas Family Care Program, so that they can, and I love that. It's
Yeah,
social
I like
workers.
that too because that way you can hopefully stay in touch with some of them still. And
Right. Well, and what's nice about it is it's not, the social workers don't just go and check on the kids. They're trying to help the parents
families, right? Yeah, right,
with whatever they need to parent well and be
right.
successful. It's
So
not like, a babysitter showing up to check to make sure you're doing everything right. You know what I mean?
right. No, but the thing is, them, they want the families to be healthy,
Mhm. Yeah.
not just a kid. Yeah, they want
Right.
they want the
Right.
whole family to hopefully change. And
Yeah.
hopefully, because of the spiritual growth of some of the kids, like I said, hopefully it'll rub off on some of their
Caregivers. Yeah.
biological families there too. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 I just love that it's a whole family care program, helping them with whatever they need. So it's really great. Because we started going down before that program started, and to
yeah,
lose kids was so hard because you had
right,
no idea,
right.
you know,
What
uh,
I have no idea whatever happened to them afterwards.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And still, if the situation is healthy, the Barnabas Care Program doesn't
Backs off.
follow
Yeah.
them. But but at least that it's because it's a healthy situation. They've
Yeah.
been cleared for a healthy situation.
That's
So yeah, for the
And
most
then,
part.
I mean, I love, I was just thinking, I'm talking about how the house parents and the teachers, but there's so many other people that on staff that I've connected with on a
Hmm.
personal level over time too. And we text each other once in a while, Tracy or, whoever it is, or even we had Rebecca as our coordinator last time, and now we had um,
Vanessa.
Vanessa. And so, I'm still in touch with Rebecca anyway. I mean, thankfully she's now the sponsorship coordinator, so that's wonderful. But
Yes.
also, I enjoyed meeting Vanessa, and so it's just great, all the different people,
Mm.
and how open they are to receiving friendship too. You know what I mean? I don't take that for granted because I
Yeah.
mean we're just there for a week. But
Right.
you connect with them and then you feel like you have a friendship for life.
Yeah. And that, I think, is such a amazing part of the project, because they don't just look at you and you're just there for a week. So they're doing their job. They're going through the
Right.
motions. they really invest in
Yeah,
you being there and your team and whatever it is that you
yeah,
need and whatever it is that you know, they really do try to connect with every single person and serve your team to the
right.
best that they, you know, and
Yep,
really make you feel welcome and that you're not just filling a week, you're there, you're
right,
participating, you
right,
are on property to do the ministry with them.
right.
And that partnership mindset is, I think, just makes it
No, it's
so
beautiful. It's
and yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, I love that about that place, yeah.
Mhm.
So what did you think about Vanessa? I haven't met her yet, but if
Oh,
there
she's sweet. She's super
yeah,
sweet. Yeah. She
good.
lived in the States for a little while too, so her English is really good. And I don't know, we just clicked really fast too. First I was like, oh, there's a new one. What about Rebecca? And then it was no problem. It was
That's
really
good.
good. And I enjoyed my whole week with her, and I felt like I knew her just as well as Rebecca at the end. No, I really like her. I mean, Rebecca did that and she did that, and Mandy did that too. Like if you want to do something different that you didn't schedule, you can run it by them. If they can make it possible, they will make it possible, you know?
Yeah,
So, like the
flex
tuk-tuks, I don't think we had them on the schedule. I said, "Can we do the tuk-tuks?" "Oh, sure." So
yeah, they really
it's just
do make you
wonderful
feel
because, yeah, then you can do some things on the spur of the moment too, all within reason, obviously. But
right.
it's good to have a schedule and to have
Mhm.
have a plan of what you're going to do when. But it's nice to be able to sometimes do something unplanned too.
Yes, yes, it is wonderful how welcoming and flexible they're willing to be. And it again makes you just feel so welcome, I think. It just
Yeah.
um like you are a partner in
Oh,
what they're doing.
absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe that's because I've gone so many times now. I feel more comfortable about that every time. So I think it's good if people go back. I think,
Mhm.
I mean, not everybody gets to go back a second time, but if
Right.
people really want to go back and if it's the Lord's will, I think it's a good thing to go back to the same
Mhm.
place
Mhm.
instead of maybe picking a different ministry every time you go somewhere. So I mean, I just hope I can stay connected with the James Project as long as I can breathe.
Yes.
Well,
So
because like I said, I think it's really, I mean, I never really think about it. I just do it because I want to do it because it brings me joy. And even though, yeah, it was pretty stressful those first 3 months because I had other responsibility with my classes. So it
yeah.
was a little stressful, but I got through it. But it's
Mhm.
all worth it because, yeah, it's like going back to family. I'm longing to go back and see people again. And I'm longing to share that with more students.
Yeah.
I mean, there are several who already said from this time they want to go again next time. Like I said, that's good because they can help the new ones.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I want as many students as possible to experience that from our school
Mhm.
because it is life changing and it does. I mean, unless you're made of stone, it does touch your heart.
Yeah. Mhm. Oh,
So
so
what I
good.
also always do, this is what Dallas did, and I guess I don't have to do it, but it made sense to me. I collected everybody's passport and locked them up at the school, and then I brought them all to the airport so that
Mhm.
nobody would forget theirs because
Yeah.
you're not going anywhere without your passport. So our flight was at 6:30 or something. We had to be at the airport at 4. We're leaving. We had a funny
That's
experience
okay.
there anyway. So we're in Colombia. And, thankfully, somebody from the team, they run a Christian camp and they had two
Mhm.
big vans, so they drove us down. And
Right.
so we were loading up these two vans with kids. It's like
Yeah.
3 a.m. Well, we get pulled. One of the vans gets pulled over by the cops because there's a lot of trafficking that goes on in Ohio. So they were watching out.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. So that
You
was
must
the little adventure on the way to the airport. But so yeah, I just take all those passports down there and pass them out when we get to the airport, and then there's a safe now in the team house. So I lock them up in the team house. Then I was afraid I would lose the key, but
I
but I
know.
didn't, thankfully. But anyway, so we lock them all up, and then the rest of the money. I don't need to carry all the money around. What I always do, I always have like team spending money too, because we
Mhm.
go with the school. I always
Mhm.
raise a little bit more, or have everybody put in a little bit more, so we have like team money, so we can
Mhm.
do something fun like go swimming that wasn't planned, that wasn't
Right.
paid for yet, or
I
get ice cream that wasn't paid for yet, or there was something else. I don't know. So what I do is we spend whatever we need to spend as a team, and then whatever is left, I leave as a donation. So That's
Yeah.
always nice to be able to do too. And that
Yeah.
doesn't cost everybody too much if you have it in a, if everybody pitches in for that extra money. So I just put that right in my budget.
That's a good idea. You had mentioned before going down and seeing people again and these
Right.
connections, but you see where your money is going, like
Oh,
leaving a donation.
absolutely.
You know that donation is going to something they need, and you see how they walk out the
Yeah.
ministry, and it makes it that much more. To me, it makes it that much easier to give. Do you
To
know what I
give
mean?
without hesitation. Yeah, because you hear of so many bad things. So, well, for example, checking out where the money went. While we were there was a man and his wife that came from, I think, Alaska or something. They built one of the boys' homes.
Oh
They came to
wow!
check it out, to look at it. They had never seen
Yeah,
it before. That made me happy that they came and had an opportunity to look at it,
right, right.
So that was really cool. So, I mean, yeah, anybody's welcome down there. That's why they
Mhm.
have these different programs, if you want to just be a visionary or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
There's so many different ways to get involved. And that's
There
wonderful.
are. Yeah. Well, I am grateful that you've gotten involved and that you're so passionate. And I'm grateful for all the kids that whose lives are definitely changed down there, but through your sponsorships and just going and visiting them, but also the kids that you bring. It's just it inspires me to know that there are young people out there that want to give back,
Yeah, I
that
do.
want to serve, that have a heart for these things.
Well, there
So
were some there were some that worked and saved money so they could go on this trip.
oh, that's wonderful.
I mean, they had different options. They could fundraise, they could work
Yeah.
for somebody and make money, and some of them used the money from their jobs to
Mm,
pay. I hear a thunder out there. Used money from their jobs to pay for this trip.
mm,
I mean,
invested they
more
are.
power to
Yeah.
them. That I was really happy to hear that. And actually, there's a set of twins on this. That's what that was on this team that the mom shared with me. Instead of doing a graduation party, they'd rather have people give money to shadow. So I don't
That's
know how they're planning on this yet, but that just that touched me too. It's like, wow.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that selflessness that they come back with
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
world changing, really, whether it's their little world or wherever God leads them to go. It's
Yeah.
hugely impactful and so good for society.
And the nice thing is, like I said, everybody can get involved in whichever way they want. And some people might want to invest more, some people less, but it's just wonderful to be part of this big God blessed undertaking. This
Yeah. Yeah, this big family. I
yeah,
know.
a family. Exactly. Exactly.
So, my kids and I love this quote. I say it at the end of everyone, but
Yeah.
that from Mother Teresa, where she says that we can't all do great things, but we can do small things with great love. And I feel
Mhm.
like that's what we've been talking about this whole
That's
time.
what I was just trying to say, just not maybe as eloquently.
Oh,
But
well,
yeah,
you know,
that's right. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, nobody should ever think they can't do enough to be involved somehow. And
yeah. And I feel like we've been talking about it too with the James Project because they're doing big things. They're building new buildings. They're, these big important things, but they're also caring for each individual child that comes through those gates
exactly,
uniquely
exactly.
and meeting
Every
them where they're at.
yeah, every child is being cared for. They're not just one of many, but right. And like I said, that's what I saw with the house parents, how
Mm,
caring and loving they are, to their own children too, but also to the children that are not their biological children.
right, right. Yeah, it's just such a remarkable love
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that God is clearly pouring into them so that they can pour out.
Patience, patience. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, one time I thought foster. I wanted our family to be foster
Mhm.
family. Foster family. My husband was not on board, so my dad suggested doing the Fresh Air Kid program. Have you ever heard of that?
Yep. The
From New
kids from
York.
the city. Yeah.
So we did that, and the first child we had was a young boy. He was older. Mine were 5 and 3, and he was 6, and he
Hmm.
was the youngest in his family. So I was like, oh, this will be great. He'll get to be the oldest for a couple of weeks. And I thought I was so ready to do this. I thought I was going to be great at this. It is so hard to love someone else's kids like my own,
Yeah.
especially when they don't know you and they push your buttons. And you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I found it incredibly challenging and humbling by the end of that 2 weeks, realizing how far I was from being able to really love this kid like
Oh
my
yeah.
own, you know?
And I know they don't, I mean, love down there is what it is supposed to do too. When discipline is warranted, that they discipline the kids too, because one of my one of my kids down there was in trouble one night, and then the house dad told me, and it's like, here, you go tell her why you do, why you can't be
Yeah.
out there right now and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, they're striking a good balance between, being gentle and being firm when they need to be, and
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
nice to see.
Yeah.
So
But it just reminds me of how hard that job is because I
yeah.
couldn't even do it well for 2 weeks
Right,
with
right. No,
one
it would
kid.
be very hard. It would be very hard. Yeah,
Yeah, so they're incredible. But I like to think that when we do either great things or small things with great love, it's kind of what we leave behind, right? It's kind of all we leave behind. So if someone were to ask you, what do you think the legacy of the James Project will be? What would you
well, the
say?
legacy of the James Project, I think the legacy will be just seeing the impact in the country, little one person at a time, changing their community too and stuff. Like I said, I hope it'll snowball more and more and more, but it already has snowballed some as we see the progress being made there. So, I mean, the legacy would be showing God's love pouring into people in the name of Jesus. And I mean, we can't change their hearts, but we can only teach them about God, but God doing his part by changing their hearts. And I don't know, I just feel like he's blessing it. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's an impact for God in that community and beyond, wherever the kids have come from,
Hmm. Hmm.
but especially in the community too.
Yeah.
Um,
And then to me, I also think about the people that go down and visit. So the
right,
ripple
right,
effect
right.
coming.
Impact, yeah, right. So the
Yeah.
impact on, right, because of the way we as teams are being treated, the impact is great beyond Guatemala,
Isn't it amazing?
wherever people are coming from. Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's remarkable that
Yeah,
it's doing such amazing things for that area and those kids, but also for us
right, right.
and
No,
how.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad if you, I mean, how many kids can you sponsor in the world with different organizations? But do you ever get to meet them? No,
I know. I know.
right?
Hmm.
So, and I don't want to name any names either, but I'm just saying, I think that's maybe why I get so passionate about it too, because I can actually, yeah,
Hmm.
actually meet people and
Hmm.
not just send money, but
Right.
have the relationship, and you can have the relationship with writing back and forth. Some people might sponsor kids and never go meet them. They
Hmm.
can still write back and forth to them, or
Yeah.
maybe send a gift once in a while. And
Yeah. It is pretty impactful though to be able to see those kids face to face and spend time with
absolutely,
them and love on them. And it just reminds me of that girl that you said that she chose her before she went down, and that made
yeah.
such, I
Well,
think
and
that's
one girl I sponsor, I did the same thing. I just looked through all the pages because another one had left that I had. So I thought, oh, well, I still want to sponsor and I still want to be connected. And I just picked her, and she and I like have a great relationship now too, and I'm sponsoring two of her siblings now too.
it's
So
hard to do just one, right? It's like
she's got a few more, but I can't do them. I can't support them all.
I
But
know.
yeah, and it's really neat to yeah, then get to meet them.
Mhm.
And I was so happy that, well, these girls here were more of the same age, so it was even easier
Yeah.
for them
Yeah.
to connect, and then yeah, the way they could communicate and could understand each other, that's really great.
Mhm.
I mean, she speaks some Spanish, so it's not like
Right.
she needs to give herself a little bit more credit, but it was also God thing helping her understand everything that was important to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And just for us to remember that each of these, we may only see them for, a few days, a year, but each one of those interactions is so impactful for them,
Mhm.
and I said this before, I love that the project does a great job explaining to these kids how far we've come, what we're there for. You know what I mean? So they know it's not just, something that people do. They know what we're there for. They know we're there to
Mhm.
love them. We're there
Right.
to support them.
Right.
We're there to encourage them. So they appreciate that, and it just makes each one of those interactions so much more impactful.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of not realizing that. I was talking to did a recorded an episode with Rebecca the other day, and she was sharing a story, and I was thinking, as she's sharing it, I'm thinking there are many times when I've had interactions that I didn't dismiss them, of course, but didn't realize that I might be having more impact. Do you know
Then
what
you
I mean?
think yeah. And I
Yeah.
felt like with one of my sponsor kids, I felt like now she's getting a little bit older. I felt like, and she was one of the ones who said she would like to learn English and stuff too. So yeah, I mean, they see that they're in a good place and that they have opportunities there, that if they grab those opportunities, they might have a better life than where they came from, and and be able to take care of themselves, especially in a culture where women are not so highly regarded, so it's good
Yeah.
if they learn how to take care of themselves so they're not dependent on somebody. And yeah, this girl, actually, I wasn't the only one sponsoring her. There was somebody else on the team who had been sponsoring her for a while, but they had
Mhm.
never met her before. So I
Oh,
wanted to make sure she spent time with them too. So I introduced her to them and stuff. So she did a really good job going between both of us,
oh,
so
that's
that
nice.
nobody felt like they didn't get to connect with her. So she did, for her, I don't know what she is, 14 or something. I thought she did a pretty great job balancing the two sponsors.
Yeah, that's nice. So I am so glad that you had a successful trip. I'm so glad that nobody forgot their passport or,
Yeah.
you know, and you got the flights. I'm working on flights for my team going down in August. I'm hoping to
Okay.
get them in May. So I feel you with the stress part of the flights. Yes.
Yeah, if you're responsible for everybody.
Yes, I know. And we have a bigger team. I think we have between 22 and 24 already. Yes.
I
So
hope you
pray.
have a really good trip, and
Yeah.
everybody you're taking will be just as excited and joyful as the kids that went with me, and have same
Yeah.
response to it. And like I said, there was one that went for the third time, and she thought she'd seen it all, and she hadn't, and she realized that. And so
Yeah.
you see something different every time, and you grow every time. Another funny thing is, and then I'll stop. But down there, they are so caring. They remember what you like. They know I like plants.
Isn't
So
that cool?
twice now I've done gardening around the team house
Mhm.
because of that. And I had planted two bougainvilleas against the fence, but I guess they died. So they went and bought two new ones, which I did because I knew I liked those flowers. So I said, well, make sure they get watered. And I bought a third one. So my goal
Oh,
is to make that fence really pretty for
mm,
the team members to look at when you sit there on that patio.
that would be
I just
nice.
love flowers, and there's so many beautiful flowers in Guatemala. And you drive by houses where they have those huge bougainville bushes and stuff. And
Yeah.
so that's what I was trying to create. I don't know if it'll work or not, but
Well, hopefully it'll take shape soon.
when you go in August, make sure they get watered. I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
I will. I will.
I'm
All right.
just kidding. But anyways, I mean that's just one another thing where you feel like they really care. When you come down as a team, they really care about what you care about too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you want to do what they have a need of, but they
Mhm.
also at the same time are mindful of what you might enjoy.
I
So
know. And they juggle 18 to 22 teams a year.
I
And
know, I know.
from
I had to get my dates on the calendar while I was down there. I already saw the calendar filling up, and I didn't even know if I could go yet. But I said, "He blocked this for me," and I got my answer. I think I got 19 so far, and there are more coming. So I'm
Mm,
gonna have to. I always pray about it because God always works out the team exactly the way He wants it. It's happened every time. Every time I thought, oh, I got to turn some people away. I never
mhm.
had to. It just worked itself out.
That's so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful thing. And then I'll just have to see how much spaces there are for parents. But you know,
Right.
well, we want to have at least, yeah, with I had 5 parents to 19 students this time. I think we're going to do six adults and then 18 students, that ratio.
Yeah.
So,
A good
but
ratio.
anyway, so that he's always worked that out too. So I'm going to start making a list and then go
There you
from there.
He does know better than we do, for sure.
He has it all under control, and it's
Mhm.
that's very comforting to know too. You know,
Mhm. Yeah, which reminds me, we shouldn't stress about flights.
no, couldn't, but it's hard not to because you don't want to mess it up and then
I know.
not know what to do after that.
I I know. So crazy. Lots of details. But I'm glad that you put in all the work, and I'm
Well,
glad
thank
that you
you.
enjoy it, and I'm glad that these kids get to experience it because you enjoy it.
Yeah, and thank you for your work that you're doing there with these interviews and podcasts because that shows how much you care and how much you're trying to share about the project, and then also get different experiences, input from different experiences and stuff. So, thanks for what you're doing.
Thanks. It's one of my favorite things to talk about too, so.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's good. No, and it's good that there are a lot of people in the States here
Mhm.
promoting the James Project
Mhm.
because, yeah, every hand is needed in one way or another, like we said before, whether it's just finances or going or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yep. Well, many hands make light work, right?
right.
All right, Claudia, thank you so much.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
This
And
next
may God bless you
You too.
and have a good trip in August.
Thanks.
And I hope to talk to you again at some point.
Yes, I hope so too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Here. Bye bye.